Thanks, guys. So, Seth, first thing I wanted to ask you about, how was that the transition you made? Describe a little bit about that, going from being a college basketball coach to broadcast television analyst.
I've been very fortunate. I coached for 36 years, and when I got let go at Virginia Tech, I had to have a career. And I was very fortunate that ESPN gave me this opportunity. I don't take it for granted. And, the biggest thing is you got to take the same approach with the media that you did when you were coaching. And that's preparation and making sure that you understand the responsibilities of the job, you take it seriously, and that you do the job to the best of your abilities. And I think too many times people get jobs, they take the job for granted, and I think that's a big mistake.
And obviously, you yourself had a very long, successful coaching career, over 300 wins, over 170 in the ACC. What are some of your, favorite moments and highlights from your coaching career?
I love that question. That means I can talk about the wins and not the losses. I was very fortunate. Long Beach State, we went into Kansas and won at Allen Fieldhouse when they were number one in the country. I've taken teams into Duke and Cameron Indoor Stadium. Probably the most fun win, or two most fun wins, were at Kansas when they were number one, because the game before we absolutely got our brains beaten at VCU, and then we played Kansas when they were number one and won. And then when you beat Duke on game day, that was a lot of fun. I mean, for Virginia Tech to host a college game day and then to win the game against the number one ranked Duke team, that was a pretty good moment.
And transitioning over to the CAA here, what are your expectations for both Elon this year and the conference as a whole?
Well, the conference is deeper than people realize. I mean, I had a chance to speak at UNC Wilmington's tip-off banquet. And you got Fleming and you got Ingram. You got a style of play that's really hard to play against. And then Elon, you got a team right now. They returned 5 guys that can play. I mean, they can really play. Tyler Sebring's a tough matchup because he's a stretch four that can shoot the ball, and he could have kind of a breakout year in terms of go from like a 9-point a game score to maybe a 15. I think Luke Eddy, the point guard, is kind of a reflection of Coach Matheny in terms of he's got a toughness, a little bit of what they had when he was an assistant at Davidson. The hardest thing for Elon is there's a transition period when you go from the Southern Conference to CAA. There's a transition period. Hofstra's got a terrific rebounder, and Gustas, William and Mary, the kid Pruitt, can really score. The conference is very balanced.
And a little more on Coach Matheny, going into his 8th year coaching the Phoenix. What do you think of his coaching style and really just what he does as a coach for the Phoenix?
I think he's a really very good basketball coach. I think he's a terrific basketball coach. He's a good communicator. He's done a good job evaluating. Now, they've lost some players to transfer. The new culture of college basketball, you recruit a really good player and someone's going to recruit him right off your team. And that makes it tough. But he does a good job of identifying players. He does a good job of developing players. His teams play really hard. But when you transition leagues, I went from the Big East to the ACC. Even that jump, even as good as the Big East was, it's still a transition. And you've got it impacts your recruiting. It impacts the geographic footprints that you recruit. So there'll be a process, but he's a very good teacher. He comes from a great pedigree from Bob McKillop, and he'll continue to be successful.
And lastly, can't let you go before asking this one. Who do you got in the Final Four this year, and who do you think is going to be the national champion?
I mean, it's October. You're killing me. It isn't even Halloween. I like Oregon. I like Kansas. I like Duke. And probably Kentucky, because I had a chance to spend a lot of time with them. And I actually think that Oregon can win the national championship this year.
All right. Thank you.